Okay, so like robotaxis, right? It's like everyone's suddenly talking about them, especially with this big AI event Tesla just had. Imagine like ordering a self-driving car with the same kind of ease as, I don't know, ordering a pizza. That's the future Elon Musk seems to be dead set on. And we've got all the juicy details like the announcements, the tech specs, you name it. So let's dive into what this all actually means for the future of getting around.
You know what I find really interesting about all of this is just how, I don't know, bold Tesla's being. This isn't them kind of testing the waters with autonomous vehicles. This Cybercab, this feels like a full-on cannonball into the deep end.
Right. This isn't just like a new feature they're tacking onto their existing cars. Musk went all out at their We Robot event. And, when he does these things, he does not hold back. Picture this. He rolls out on stage in a prototype with no steering wheel, no pedals. I mean, nothing. It even had those cool butterfly doors. It was like something out of a futuristic movie.
It's definitely a statement. I'll give them that. Tesla's good at those. The big question is, can they actually deliver? Especially when you look at the price tag they're throwing around.
Yeah, because when Musk dropped that sub $30,000 figure, I think everyone kind of did a double take. If that's even remotely doable, that changes everything.
It could. It really could. I mean, that kind of price point, if they can actually hit it, would be a huge shakeup. But, and this is a big but, we got to consider Tesla's, well, let's just say their history. Remember the whole Cybertruck situation?
Yeah.
Initially, it was supposed to be under 50 grand, and now, well, it's starting closer to 80.
Wait, really? That initial price was a big deal, wasn't it? What happened there?
Well, a lot can change between showing off a prototype and actually manufacturing something on a large scale, right? The cost of materials can go up, the design might need tweaks, and sometimes, let's just say, those early estimates are a tad.
Okay, so maybe a healthy dose of skepticism is warranted. But even if that 30 grand figure is, flexible, the technology they're talking about is what really has people buzzing. And this is where Tesla's doing things very differently from everyone else.
Yeah, they're really charting their own path. It's like they're going all in on this vision of AI in a way that has other companies kind of, well, both interested and a little worried, to be honest.
All right, so let's dig into how this tech actually works because it's clear Tesla's playing by a different set of rules. So we've talked about how much Elon Musk and Tesla love to kind of, push the boundaries of what's possible, but their approach to the tech behind these robotaxis, it's definitely raising some eyebrows. This whole idea of cameras only for full self-driving, or FSD as they call it, that seems, well, kind of controversial, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not the usual way to go about it. Most of the big names in the self-driving world, like your Waymos and your Cruises, they're all heavily invested in Lidar and radar. Those systems, they use lasers and radio waves to build up this really detailed 3D map of everything around the car.
Right, right. So more data, probably a better picture of what's going on around the car, and I'm guessing probably a lot safer too. So why is Tesla all in on just cameras? Is this just like a Musk thing? Is he being stubborn or something?
I think it's a little more complicated than that. See, Tesla, they don't just see themselves as a car company, right? They're a tech company too. And they're betting big time that their AI, which they've trained on tons and tons of visual data from all those Teslas already on the road, that it can actually be even better than those LiDAR systems everyone else is using.
So they're basically saying their AI is so smart it can, like, learn to see the world just as well, if not better, than these fancy lasers.
That's exactly what they're claiming.
Yeah.
And to be fair, there are some advantages to this approach. For starters, cameras are way cheaper than LiDAR sensors. Like, way cheaper. And that plays a big role in why they think they can actually hit that crazy low price point for the Cybercab. Plus, cameras are really good at certain things, like recognizing objects and those lane markings on the road.
But, and there's got to be a but, right? What about the downsides? I've heard some people say that Tesla's FSD isn't that safe, especially in certain conditions.
That's the big debate right there. The people who aren't so sure about all this, they say the systems that only use cameras, they have a tough time when you can't see well, like in a heavy downpour or when it's foggy. LiDAR, though, it doesn't need to actually see light, so it does just fine in those situations. What Tesla's banking on is that their AI is so much better, it outweighs those safety concerns.
It's a gamble for sure, but even if they've cracked the tech, there are other things to think about, right? What about the whole, I don't even know what to call it, the regulatory mess of self-driving cars? Especially ones without steering wheels. That's got to be a nightmare.
Oh yeah, that adds a whole other layer of difficulty. Imagine, for a second, a world where pretty much every car is driverless. That means rethinking all of our traffic laws, figuring out who's liable when things go wrong, even how we define what a safe car is, has to change.
Because if there's no one behind the wheel who takes the blame when something happens, it seems like the people making the laws are struggling to keep up with how fast this technology is moving.
It's more than just catching up. It's about anticipating problems we haven't even thought of yet,
Yeah.
Like, how do you stop someone from hacking into one of these systems? How do we make sure they make the right call, ethically speaking, when an accident's unavoidable? This stuff keeps people up at night.
Okay, so Tesla definitely has their work cut out for them, but they aren't the only ones who want a piece of this robotaxi future, are they? It feels like there are a lot of companies trying to get in on this.
Oh, absolutely. This is a big money race with some serious players. You've got companies like Waymo, for example. They've got Google's money behind them, which is never a bad thing, and years of experience in this whole autonomous vehicle thing.
Wait, Google's in on this too? Okay, that changes things. What about the other car companies? Are they just like watching this all happen from the sidelines?
No way. General Motors, for example, they've got Cruise, which is their self-driving company, and they've been putting in a lot of miles testing in some pretty big cities. And you can't forget about all the smaller startups, too. Each one of them has their own angle, their own partnerships. Companies like Zoox, Aurora, Pony.ai, they're all making moves to, shake things up.
So it's a crowded field, and it sounds like everyone's bringing their A game. What does all this mean for Tesla? Do they have what it takes to actually win this whole robotaxi race?
That is the billion-dollar question, right? I mean, they've definitely got things going for them. They've got the name recognition, a really loyal following, and let's face it, Elon Musk knows how to get people excited. But they're competition. They're no slouches either. They've got a ton of experience, strategic partnerships, and a head start on all that tricky regulatory stuff and figuring out how the public feels about all this.
So it's a tight race, and it sounds like Tesla's whole move fast and break things style might not cut it this time. They're up against some real pros with a lot on the line. But even beyond all the competition, this isn't just about making a better taxi service, is it? At least not if Elon Musk has anything to say about it.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. This is about Elon Musk's big vision for Tesla. He doesn't want them to just make cars. He wants them to be this AI and robotics giant. And the Robotaxi, it's just one part of a much, much bigger picture.
And that's where things get really interesting, because we got to talk about Optimus. Remember that whole humanoid robot thing Tesla showed off a while back? A lot of people thought it was just a publicity stunt.
Yeah, it was easy to dismiss as just another one of Musk's spectacles. But if you start to put the pieces together, it's clear that Optimus could be a key player in all of this.
Okay, now you've got me curious. How does a humanoid robot fit into a whole robotaxi thing?
Think about it. Robotaxis still need maintenance, someone to clean them, maybe even charge them up or fill them with fuel down the road, right? And who better to take care of all that than a bunch of humanoid robots that are already designed to work in that same environment?
Whoa, okay, I see what you mean, and that's honestly kind of mind-blowing. So we've got self-driving cars, humanoid robots making sure they're running smoothly. This is a lot to take in. So we've got self-driving cars, humanoid robots making sure they're running smoothly. This is a lot to take in. It's like Musk is aiming for like a fully automated future, right? And these robotaxis, they're just the beginning.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. It's not really about, putting Uber and Lyft out of business. It's way bigger than that. It's about completely changing how we think about transportation. Musk is playing the long game here, betting everything on a future where AI and automation are like everywhere, especially when it comes to how we get from point A to point B.
And he's never been afraid to think big, that's for sure. But can they actually pull it off? I mean, we talked about all the competition, the regulations, all that. Are we even close to a world where hopping into a robotaxi is like a normal thing?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to look back at some of Tesla's missed deadlines and be a little skeptical. Remember, Musk was saying we'd have robotaxis everywhere by 2020. Well, it's 2024, and I'm still calling a regular cab when I need a ride.
Yeah, those predictions from back then seem a little off now, to put it mildly. So what's the holdup? Is it the technology itself, or are there bigger problems they need to figure out?
It's kind of both, honestly. The tech is crazy complicated. We're talking about teaching a machine to deal with all the randomness of driving, making decisions in a split second. That could be the difference between a smooth ride and a serious accident.
It's like the ultimate driving test, but with like way higher stakes.
Exactly. And then you've got all those legal and ethical questions we talked about earlier. If something bad happens, who's responsible? How do you program a car to make, moral decisions when something goes wrong and there's no way to avoid it? These aren't just, thought experiments. They're real problems that need real solutions before we can have robotaxis driving around all over the place.
It's one thing to build a self-driving car that looks cool. It's a whole other thing to convince people it's safe enough to actually get inside. So, thinking about all these challenges, what should we be looking out for in the next few months, maybe even years? What are the telltale signs that robotaxis are actually going to happen?
Keep your eye on the regulations. When or if governments finally put out some clear guidelines for self-driving cars, that's a big one. And keep watching the big players, like Waymo and Cruise. They're already doing real-world tests in cities. The more those tests look like, just everyday driving, the closer we are to actually seeing this stuff everywhere.
So it's not just about Tesla then. The whole industry has to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a race with a bunch of different moving parts. You've got the tech companies, the car companies, the government, all trying to figure out where they fit in and how it all ends up. No one really knows.
Sounds like we're on the verge of a transportation revolution. But like any good revolution, it's going to be messy and unpredictable and full of surprises.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Hmm.
And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting, right? It's not just about cars. It's about how we live, how we work, how we interact with everything around us. Because if robotaxis do become a normal thing, it'll change our cities, our roads, even how we connect with each other.
It's a future full of possibilities, that's for sure. And probably a few things we haven't even thought of yet. But one thing's certain. Hailing a ride is never going to be the same. So buckle up and get ready, because this robotaxi revolution, if it happens, it's going to be a wild ride. And on that note, thanks for diving deep with us today. Catch you next time.